I spent a bunch of birthday money on these, so I have absolutely no regrets. Thank goodness. Honestly, it's got beautiful art and bread, so what is not to love? Hello and welcome to a vlog. My life feels both very chaotic and also like nothing has changed. First things first, you'll notice that I haven't had my engagement ring on, and that's because it broke and it's been in a different state to be fixed. So hopefully I get that back soon. I'm also doing this vlog because I seem to be getting distracted and doing things instead of reading, even though I obviously love reading. So I wanted to do this vlog to keep myself kind of accountable and motivated. And I'm currently listening to the audiobook for Tyrant's Throne, which is the 4th Greatcoats book. So I'm continuing my reread and I'm happy that I'm trying to finish this series. I've got about 8 hours left of the audiobook. Also, you'll notice that I've got these elastics in my teeth, which are making me grumpy because they're pulling my jaw into line. So they're giving me face ache quite often. So I'm trying to keep them in as often as possible so I get my braces off sooner. And I initially thought that I'd get my braces off in June, and I don't think that's going to happen anymore, which is very frustrating, but it is what it is. We are also currently house hunting again, and we're also planning our wedding for next year. So things are just happening all over the place. So I'm trying to recalibrate, refocus, and actually read. And so the book I'm physically reading is The Bone Ships, which was on my May TBR. And I've fallen kind of behind on doing my TBR this month. I've got Magic Burns, and then I've also got The Black Hawks, 2 books that were on my TBR video, and I haven't even touched them. And I'm starting this vlog with like 4 days left of the month, so I doubt I'm gonna get to them, but that's okay. They'll just go back in my mental TBR bucket and I'll pull them back out again later. We're good with that. But I've at least started this and I'm 20 pages in, and so far it's a cool pirate style fantasy where the ships in this world are made from the bones of dragons, but I have only read 20 pages and it seemed very chaotic in terms of just introducing all of the terminology and the world building. And this character, who's the main character, is a drunkard, but he's been pulled out of his funk by this woman who is like a pirate queen conqueror kind of person, and she's holding him accountable and forcing him to kind of take on his responsibilities like he should be, rather than being a down and out drunk. So I like the dynamic already. I'm interested in learning more about the world building, and reading it actually goes quite quickly because it's written in a bigger font, which appeals to my very distracted brain. So I'm liking this. I'm enjoying this obviously, and still currently reading it, and I've laughed many a time reading this. The banter is just on point. So ultimately my aim is to finish these, really. That's what I'm here to do. And I've got several videos that I'm currently editing because my life is just a schedule that constantly changes at the moment, and so I'm really trying to struggle and juggle where to film videos, when to edit them, and when to read. And so because it feels chaotic, I'm doing this vlog to kind of ground myself. So wish me luck and we'll see how I go. I don't even know how long this vlog is going to be either, but I guess future me, when I'm editing, we'll find out. Hello, I have a quick reading update. It's a couple of days later and it's a Sunday morning. I usually find it really difficult to film on a weekend because of the in-laws. There's a lot of people always around because they're visiting. So now I actually have like a moment where it's not completely bedlam. I can actually update this vlog. So I'm up to 50 pages of this and it's actually gripped me. It's taken off a little bit more and I'm understanding the characters more. This seems to be setting up the characters and the world building rather than a plot at the moment. And so when I started the book, I was like, I don't care about these characters yet, so whatever they're doing doesn't interest me as much, but it's starting to grow on me and I'm really looking forward to sitting down and reading it later. So a switch has been turned in my brain and I'm quite excited for it now. And then I've also continued reading Tyrant's Throne because I went to the city yesterday to an art show, which I don't have many photos of, unfortunately, because I was too busy taking it all in. So I listened to this on the train to and from the city, and now I've got about 6 hours left of the audio, and hopefully I am going to be a little bit quiet at work this week and I'm going to be doing filing and stuff, and that's kind of mundane work, so I can listen to an audiobook while I do it. So I'm anticipating finishing this during the week, and I will cross my fingers about that, because next up on audio I want to start The Sword of Kaigan, which is a standalone fantasy that I am very hyped for, so I hope it lives up to my expectations. And then while I was in the city, I actually went to Minotaur, which is like a massive nerd shop that I love, and I tried getting a couple of comics, but they were out of those particular comics, but I got some books instead. So first up I got the sequel to An Absolutely Remarkable Thing. I've read both of them and I've loved them, so I thought I may as well get the actual physical copy because I've got the physical copy of book 1. I listen to these on audio. And this is a sci-fi duology. It's a first contact with aliens story and I really liked it. It's told by Hank Green and he's also a YouTuber. Really, really good because he talks about parasocial relationships in it as well and social media and fame. I just really enjoyed it and so naturally I had to get this book. And then another book that I've already read is Dawnshine by Brandon Sanderson, which is part of his Stormlight series, and I read that as an ebook I think a little while ago and it's now come out with a physical release. So when I saw this I naturally snapped it up. I spent a bunch of birthday money on these so I have absolutely no regrets. And then this next one is called The Kaiju Preservation Society and it's by John Scalzi. And I think this is like if Jurassic Park meets Pacific Rim with a bit of time travel. It's quite short and I've not read John Scalzi before, so this is my first foray into his work. And when I was buying this, the person who worked at Minotaur, he was really excited because he's either just read this or just about to read it, and he's a John Scalzi fan and he was saying that I'm gonna have a really good time. So I'm really excited to read this one as well. No idea when, but now I have them and I'm very happy about it. So today, for the rest of the day, I'm going to be drinking my coffee, reading The Bone Ships, maybe doing a little bit of video editing, but I anticipate that I'm going to get through a chunk of this. Ideally, I'd like to get through half, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that. It is the end of May, and so I'd like to read this before I have to film my wrap up this coming Tuesday, but I don't think that's gonna happen, which is why I'm doing this vlog to kind of capture my reading experience instead. Hello, I now have something to say about The Bone Ships because I'm 120 pages in and there is finally some semblance of a plot. So instead of it being, I mean, in my perspective, a little bit scattered in terms of all of the characters, now I've kind of got a reason to be interested in them because I was vaguely interested before, but I could just pick up and put down this book as I chose, and I wanted to be actually involved and invested. So it's been sitting on about a 3.5 for me, and if the plot kicks up and if the reviews about this book saying that it's incredible are to be believed, I think a lot of the work is going to be done in the later half because it seems like a very slow burn book. So I'm finally getting into it, thank goodness. And then for Tyrant's Throne, I was correct on the weekend. I have been doing a whole bunch of filing today at work, so I got to listen to a chunk of this. I'm now 70% through it, and I film my May wrap up tomorrow, so I doubt I'm gonna be able to finish it in time. I've still got about 3 hours left, and that's 3 hours my time, and I listen at 2 times speed. So technically I've got 6 hours left, but for me, I have 3. So I'm making headway on this and I'm really happy with the progress I'm making. I tend to stagnate on reading audiobooks, but I was reading this today and there was a few moments in it where I thought, oh, I'm not emotional at this scene like I thought, and then there was a ripple effect later on that I was like, oh, this is actually making me emotional, and I started to tear up on my break. So it's hitting me in the right places. At the beginning, it was also making me laugh out loud considerably. So this book is probably also going to be a 5 stars, but there are bits and pieces in between where I'm just getting frustrated at Falkio, but rightly so, he's going through a lot at the moment. So I'm liking this as well, probably 5 stars. This is probably a 3.5, maybe a 4, 4.5, depending on the ending. So those are decent ratings, I can't complain. And in all honesty, apart from Sword of Kaigen, which I plan to start on audiobook, I have no idea what I'm going to physically read next. I'm thinking maybe Black Sun because this is on my June TBR video. But my June TBR is kind of all over the place, and in my June TBR is a lot of reacting to BookTuber's favourite books from 2021. So I have a lot of their recommendations on my June TBR, so if I start any of the books in my June TBR, I'll also be starting a reading vlog for that specific booktuber. So I'm like, why did I create all this work for myself when I'm already chaotically busy? But apparently that's the way I roll. So this may be next, or I might pick up Solitaire by Alice Oseman or Check Please, something contemporary and light in between all of the fantasy and sci-fi I've been reading. I really don't know yet. Hello, I have just finished filming my May wrap up, and I actually also have a package that I wanted to open. So I thought, why not sit down and film opening this on camera when I have just sat down and filmed my wrap up, because I'm all set up for it. So let's open the parcel. This is a book that didn't quite make it into my recent book haul because it arrived a little bit too late, but this is Bloom, and it's a graphic novel about two boys, I think, who fall in love. And I've seen this recommended for fans of Heartstopper, and naturally that is why I went out and purchased it. But the art style looks lovely, and I'm in for a graphic novel that will be quick to finish, so I'm eager to start this. So I've just read the synopsis, and it says that now that high school is over, Ari is dying to move to the big city with his ultra hip band. If he can just persuade his dad to let him quit his job at their struggling family bakery. Though he loved working there as a kid, Ari cannot fathom a life wasting away over rising dough and hot ovens. But while interviewing candidates for his replacement, Ari meets Hector, an easygoing guy who loves baking as much as Ari wants to escape it. As they become closer over batches of bread, love is ready to bloom. That is, if Ari doesn't ruin everything. Sounds lovely and wholesome. Honestly, it's got beautiful art and bread, so what is not to love? Also, I should probably do a quick reading update given that from tomorrow onwards, I think there are going to be a lot of people coming and going from this place. So I've read 150 pages of The Bone Ship so far, and while I am liking it, it's still a little bit slow going, but at least there is a little bit of a plot now. So I'm liking the potential of what this is going to become, and I'm hoping that it can meet up with my expectations of this potential. So we'll see whether that actually works out, or if I'm just going to stay on the 3-star rating. And then I've got 2.5 hours left of this, and I'm liking it too. And there were a few tragic moments that occurred that made me emotional, and now after this I'm just also angry at Falkio because he's not seeing the forest for the trees. I'm like, dude, get your act together. So it's inciting emotion in me at least, and I'm looking forward to reading the ending because I only remember bits and pieces, and those bits and pieces don't actually make sense to me. So I remember thinking after I finished this book several years ago, I was like, I can't wait to reread this and actually understand more. So that's what is going to happen hopefully this time around. So you know how I only just opened Bloom because I got it in the mail? Well, I just finished it. I wanted to read a book and finish it during June, and now that it's the 1st of June, I was like, I want to start and finish a book on the first day of the month in the same day, and that's what I did. I think this is incorrectly recommended to be kind of Heartstopper vibes because that's ultimately why I picked it up, but it's not really why this story works. It's marketed seemingly for the romance in it, and the romance was a very faded subplot. This is more about Ari and him not knowing what he wants to do with his life, and also being part of this family bakery and tradition and trying to keep that alive. And it's more a story about family and values rather than a romance, even though there is some kind of romance in it, and there are friends as well that are quite great support networks, but it's not in the same vein as Heartstopper. Like, yes, it is wholesome in its own ways, and yes, it made me very hungry when reading this. So it set up the tone and the vibe of this little bakery and this coziness really well, but in terms of it being like Heartstopper, I would say that it's not, and that's why I picked it up. I picked it up for a romance, and that's not what it was. So based on the story and the storytelling, there was a few time jumps as well. It jumps months at a time, and that sometimes was a strength for the story because it meant that the characters built up a relationship together and an understanding of each other quite quickly. But then at some points it backfired because there might have been a fallout here and there or some tension being built, and then there was a time skip, and I didn't know how long that time skip was sometimes, and that stopped me from understanding where the characters were in their understandings of each other. So it was good, but it had its downsides as well. I did like the art style, and I'm glad I read it. I'm happy that I bought it and gave it a try, but I wouldn't say that it's like Heartstopper, and I ended up giving it about 4 stars. I did also laugh at this a couple of times. There were some great one-liners by some friends in here. So it was just great and very cutesy, so I'm happy that I finished it. I've also listened to a little bit more of Traitor's Blade today. I've got 2 hours left now instead of about 2.5, and the half an hour I listened to made me tear up because of the hope. So I'm enjoying that story, but I'm probably going to save it for when I'm either exercising, going for a walk, or when I'm at work doing more filing, and I'm not really doing any of those things right now. Plus it's really rainy, like on and off outside. It's got major storm warnings for this whole week, so I don't think I'm going for a walk for a while either. So my audiobook is temporarily parked until I'm going to be working, and then I'm also still reading The Bone Ships. and I'm still about 160 pages in. So I'm trying to make some traction on this today, this afternoon, and then we'll see how I feel, because today I'm like, why don't I just DNF this book? Because it's not holding my attention the way a fast-paced book is, and I think that's just down to my reading mood. It's the beginning of a month, so I just want my slate clean. So I need to just hold my horses, give it another 50 to 100 pages and then see how I feel, because if this isn't grabbing my attention, then I probably do need to DNF it. Otherwise it's going to slow down all of my reading for June, and I don't want that to happen again on the back of my reading slump May. Hello, I feel like I've skipped ahead a little bit in time, but I kind of had to because there's been no spare time to film with all of the people here. If you hear noise in the background, it is the grandparents and the bebe. So I do apologise if you hear random excitable screaming, but I have to do this update at some time. So I ended up finishing Tyrant's Throne, and I did give this 5 stars, and I did say earlier that I couldn't really remember or understand the ending, and now the ending makes a lot more sense. I just had too much time in between reading it, and so that's why I didn't remember, but it makes absolutely perfect sense. I did like the book overall. I liked the characters. There were some thematic things that made me emotional, and while the other impactful things in this story were intriguing and daring, I liked them. Sometimes I had a little bit of an issue with the characters, but that's because they were designed that way, not because of any fault of the book necessarily. And again, that trope at the end that I won't mention, didn't like that trope. Although I don't like that trope in general in anything, and if I say it, it will be a massive spoiler. So I'm leaving it at that, and I gave this 5 stars. And then from a 5 stars to, you guessed it, a DNF for The Bone Ships. I got 320 pages into this, and it just stayed the same tonally to me. So I'm like, why am I continuing reading this when I'm not loving it? And it's really tanking my reading because I've not touched anything else while I've been reading this. So I'm like, I think it's a DNF, which is really unfortunate because I wanted this to be a 5-star read, and that's just how it goes sometimes. So the tone didn't change. I don't feel connected to the characters. Maybe it's the way it's written because I feel removed from being able to connect with them. So maybe it's just a style thing that I'm not connecting with, but I'm not sure. I just wanted to love it, but clearly I couldn't. And I did give it a really good go. I gave it 300 or so pages, so I really tried. And then because I was like, I want to actually make some reading progress on something, I picked up Solitaire by Alice Oseman, which is a contemporary young adult story about Tori, and she is the sister in Heartstopper, and this is her side story. And I think some of her story takes place adjacent to Heartstopper Volume 4, and so when reading this, I'm quite excited to get more context about what happened in that volume, because I felt at the time of reading it that there were things that I wasn't necessarily understanding or seeing, and I would have liked to see more detail around it, even though I gave that volume on a reread 5 stars as well. So I'm looking forward to reading the rest of this. I've got about 20 pages into it. I really like the tone and the voice, and I thought that about Alice Oseman's work, so I think she may be a contender for one of my new found favourite authors, because I'm really liking this so far, and it makes me think that I'm probably going to go and buy out all of her other books and read those too. So Solitaire is a massive win for me, and I'm really liking it. And then I had some book mail, and I thought, why not end the vlog on doing a quick unboxing? So here I am. Now, I have said earlier in this vlog, I believe, that I've had a very chaotic life at the moment, and I felt quite overwhelmed, and so I thought, you know, something that is going to help me with that is reading wholesome books. And so I ordered some. Also, side note, we booked our wedding venue, so that's probably why I'm way more stressed than I was a couple of days ago, because I'm realizing that we now have to plan a wedding as well as house hunt. Like, the reality is setting in, but it will be exciting, and so will these books. So I got Mooncakes, which is a sapphic graphic novel. I think it's just a standalone. It's not got volume 1 on the spine or anything. And this one says, one fateful night, Teen Witch Nova reports of a white wolf in the woods and discovers her childhood crush, werewolf Tam, battling a horse demon. Now, against the background of a slowly rekindling romance, Tam and Nova must investigate the dark supernatural forces eager to claim wolf magic for evil. This sounds lovely. I didn't realize initially it was supernatural, but I probably should have given the cover, but I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be really nice. And then I also got a book that I've had my eye on for a while, and that is Tea Dragon Society. This is a lot smaller than I thought it would be because I've only seen the hardback version, but I think Again, this is like a standalone in itself, and then it's got companions. I think it's just tea, dragons and wholesome combined into one graphic novel, which I'm all about. So those are my hauled books and books that I'll be reading very, very shortly. I'm obviously currently reading Solitaire, and I also finished Bloom in this vlog as well. And then in addition to all of those, I also began the audiobook for The Sword of Kaigen, but I'm way too early into it at the moment to tell you what it's about. At the moment, I'm just getting anime meets sci-fi fantasy vibes. That's enough for me to be interested and to keep going. So with all of that said, that brings me to the end of the vlog. Thank you so much for watching. If you've read any of these down below, let me know. Leave me some pink love hearts if you really want to in the comments. Thank you again so much for watching this video. I'll come chat to you down below, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.